Hey, welcome back to Mike and Matt's Markets and Mortgages. I'm Matt Haberlie, Regional Manager of Success Mortgage.
And I'm Mike Crumrine, Virginia Regional Manager with Coldwell Banker Premier. Good to see you, Matt.
Good to see you, Mike. It's been a while.
It has, yeah. Had a couple irons in the fire, and we've been cooking. So it's good to get back together and talk about what's going on because there've been some changes lately.
Little bit, and knock on wood, we will have zero technical difficulties other than my ability to speak or not. We've done other ones that have had to go down the garbage disposal simply on technical problems. So
yeah.
Nobody wanted to see my face I got for half an hour. That was unpleasant. So
yeah, no, we won't have that this time. So we should be good.
All right, awesome. So the biggest thing I'm kind of seeing in the market, and it's specifically the month of October, slow down a little bit, is with rates kind of going back up again.
Yep.
And really we're hitting that 8% almost ceiling, maybe just staying a hair or two ticks under it. What are the challenges you think agents and loan officers are facing out there?
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, Matt, is because rates are getting high and we're hearing that, the highest in X number of years and things like that. And that starts to make people worry. And the important thing is that the agents are able to communicate what's going on and talk about what the options look like for somebody that does need to buy or sell right now, because there is a lot of business still happening out there. And we need to be able to help people that are trying to accomplish that goal understand how to make the correct steps for themselves. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Matt, is when we talk about the math of buying a house today versus waiting for a year from now, what's that kind of look like? I know there's a lot of moving pieces there, but that's what I kind of hope we can understand today.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is always the fact that nobody's making any money unless you're passing in the NFL. Nobody gets paid for passing.
Right.
And historically, if you look back, and I think that's really kind of an important thing when we're dealing with these times, is we don't just look at what happened yesterday. We're looking at the larger picture of history. If you ever met an LO, and I'm not going to name names, who might have been doing loans in the 90s, and you're out there, and the 80s will tell you, interest rates were 18%, 15%, etc. People were doing business back then. People are doing business now. The only difference is because they were coming from 18 going down to 15. It was a different feeling than going from 2.5 up to 7.5. And so it's that recency bias, but that's even more reason so why we got to look at the larger historical perspective. And to that, one of the biggest things, I went to a seminar a couple of months ago, and they were sharing that real estate, if you look at it, returns has not gone down except for once back in 2007 after the Great Recession. That basically, there have definitely been years where zero, you didn't gain anything, your house was flat, but it's never gone negative. So if you're hoping your prayer is for the market to go negative and you buy that house that you're seeing right now for cheaper than what it's listed, I mean, God forbid, as an agent, that should be your worst nightmare, because that's just a bloodbath. And really, that something as bad as the Great Depression and the Great Recession has to happen again this quickly apart, and I just don't foresee that. So that's just my thoughts on it. What do you kind of feel about where the market worst case scenario would go?
I agree with what you say, Matt. And the thing that I've been keeping kind of as my golden phrase is that we are up against a housing deficit that we for 15 plus years did not build enough new homes in this country to keep up with the growth in our population. So there is truly a shortage in the number of places for people to lay their head at night. So the only fix for that is to build more units for people to live in. And that just doesn't happen quickly. Take 15 years of not keeping up with it, let alone how much further the population grew. That's a big number for a big hole that we have to climb out of to have enough units that we're kind of even. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I don't know. But that's going to mean people need to take steps to get a home. And maybe, it looks a number of different ways for different people, but I don't foresee the bottom coming out of housing for that reason alone. So that's kind of what I've looked at.
And even to that, it's almost, I just don't realistically see it happening simply, because the thing I keep hearing from everybody is, oh, rates are so high, rates are so high. I'm going to wait till rates are lower. What do you think's going to happen when rates are lower? Everybody's sitting on the edge of the pool, and all of a sudden, the wait on the side of the pool time for whatever snacks to be over is done. Everybody jumps in the pool at once. I was going for an analogy that's not going to work, and it's pretty bad, and I really wish you would have bailed me out on that. But
I'm gonna sit there and watch you struggle.
Yeah, that was I'm gonna have to. You could edit, right? Edit. Right?
No.
All right, but nevertheless, the point is, if you're sitting there looking at 7.5 and you're going, that sucks, I'm not getting in the market, and then rates go down to 6, your mother, your brother, everybody in the world is going to be jumping in there, which is great in the rate sense. It's going to be great for me as a loan officer. But what do you think that's going to do with low inventory and pent-up demand already? Those properties that you're looking at today, let's just take the average 300,000. What is that going to be worth a year from now when we're going to be back in 2021 where we're doing escalation clauses and people are just day one going $25,000 over asking just to be competitive, just to get in there and get nuts, And so I did a little math here on something, and let's, as much as we could predict the perfect storm scenario back 2021 where everybody's going over asking, and I'll escalate clause another 10 grand on top of that, and you can marry my wife for all I care, to get into this property, which would be the environment we would be in 6%, 5.5% time frame, but everybody happy with the rate. But somehow they're happy with the rate, but they're fine with paying $30,000-$40,000 over asking. That's fine as long as the rate's low. So the math I've kind of worked out, which I love math, is for today, is for our buy down program. So here's kind of how the buy down program works. You can either so let's just be clear. This is not an ARM loan. This is not, hey, it's fixed for 3 years and then the rate goes bananas. It goes to 29%. It's not that. This is actually, if you think about it, it's really the reverse of that. Because we're qualifying you on the same rate you would have gotten today if you had just not done the buy down. And if anything, we're just giving you a break for a couple of years, and eventually you're going to get the same rate you got today. So it doesn't really 6 of one, half a dozen another there. You can either take the rate you would have gotten no matter what, or you can have a couple of years of a lower interest rate as you slowly step up to the rate you would have had either way at today. Sure. And they come in either, you can do a 1-year buy down, you can do a 2-1 buy down, meaning for 2 years, or a 3-2-1 buy down for 3. And it's literally that 3-2-1 step stool you're kind of mentally going. So if your rate today would have been 7.5 with a 3-2-1 buy down, your first year you would be at 4.5, and the second year at 5.5, then you're at 6.5, and on the fourth year you're at 7.5. The rate you would have gotten no matter what, if you hadn't done the buy down anyways. So if somehow that's hard for you to adjust, you shouldn't have gotten the house anyways, because you would have gotten 7.5 and not afforded it for the first year anyways. The other cool thing about the buy down is that it's typically offered, and just to kind of give you, I ran some numbers real quick. Again, love math. I looked at the 3-2-1 buy down. That was coming in around 3.6 points. So in other words, when we're talking about seller concessions, which can be used towards paying for this, if you were getting, let's say, a 4% concession, you use 3.6 of that towards, that would cover the cost of the buy down, which is approximately about $10,000. If that same house, and again, we're not talking murder your cousin to get into a property days, which I think may be coming if rates go lower, they will. But this normal growth, let's just say 4%.
Okay.
4% on a $300,000 house is $13,800. You're still, if you wait a year till rates get down, and they won't jump all the way down to 4.5 in a year's time. I mean, I wish, God bless. Make my life easy.
But the competition in the marketplace would be brutal, and we already lived through what that's like, and it's cool for a little bit, but there's a lot of people that get hurt in that environment too. Yeah,
you're handing out kidneys left and right to people just trying to get your offer accepted.
Yep.
And so, if that did get down, exactly, if the market went to 4.5 the way it would if the buy down was 4.5, then the market's gone bananas and you're going to be paying more than just 4% gain over a year. You're going to be paying 20, 30, 40%. So you're looking 20% would be $60,000 over asking. Is that right? I think I'm doing that right.
Yep.
You know, why not spend 10 grand a day, lock yourself in, get the 4.5 for the first year, the 5.5 the next year, the 6.5 the next year. You're saving, hundreds of dollars a month. And the great part is you're not locked in on the buy down. You can get out of it anytime. Again, this is not 2007.
Okay.
I'm not 25. I'm not as in shape. I wish this all was 2007. We had a time machine. I would go back there any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But that being said, there's no prepayment penalties on this. So let's say, this person who somehow has the magic ability to know rates are going to be at 5.5 next year and says, oh, I'm going to wait. Why don't you just take the 4.5 for 1 year at 300,000? And then when it hits 5.5, you refi into the 5.5. And if rates keep going lower, then you refi into that lower one. And if they go lower, you refi again into that lower one.
Makes sense.
You wait till they hit 5.5 and everyone loses their mind and you're paying 60,000 over asking. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. This is the craziness that goes on in my head.
No, that makes perfect sense because what we're talking about is we're options. We can't tell anybody what's the right thing for them. They've got to decide for their own life. But there is a solution available today, and the math makes sense that if you're banking on the rates to be lower in a year or two, and the perfect house comes up, there is a way to make that happen today. It's not getting them in over their head because they're going to qualify at the highest rate that would come up in the buy down scenario if they never refied. So
Exactly.
they can put that money back, that savings back, to pay for the closing costs for their refi, right? Or they could just have a couple extra bucks each month, whatever it works out to be. And so, like I said, the goal here is to understand the options so that we can guide people through this process and explain to them that, yeah, rates will go lower at some point. We don't know when, we don't know how low, but rates go lower, demand goes up. Rates go higher, demand goes down. So the competition is going to be there. And like you said, you end up in a situation where you're paying over asking price or you're having to promise your firstborn away to be able to get into a house. We just went through the situation of what it's like to have super low interest rates. It's not fun to be a buyer in that market.
Mm-hmm. That is literally the opposite of the buyer's market. And, here and maybe a little coaching tip is to ask people what their opinion is, because they formed this opinion before they ever talk to you. Oh, rates are high. I'm not going to buy right now. Somebody on, whatever, some news channel told me I shouldn't buy right now. Rates are high. Okay, cool. You want to wait. I get it. Who wouldn't want to get a lower rate? But what do you think that is going to happen when, do you think other people feel the same way you do? And so if they do, and rates get down to, let's even say 5.99%, what do you think they're all going to do? And what do you think that's going to happen? What's going to happen to home values at that time? People are, I don't always give people enough credit, but I think people are pretty smart when it comes to like, oh, well, if we all rushed into the market at that time, then then the price of the house is going to go up and I'm going to be paying way more. And so hypothetically, I mean, even putting it to them this way in a hypothetical sense, what if for some reason rates don't go down in a year, don't go down in 2 years, don't go down in 3 years? You're still at the same position you're at right now. What if rates went up even more, 9%, 10%? You're protected against that, and you've set yourself a ceiling that you will never pay for your housing more than that monthly payment. If rates go lower, you can always get out of it. It's again, I think this is why people don't like mortgage people, is because, they marry their house. They're making a commitment to you guys. They love agents. Oh, you showed me the house. We spent time together. You drove in my car. We fell in love. And we're just like, here's a rate for today. Call me 6 months if you want something different.
Right.
You marry the house. You're just dating us for a minute just to make you guys jealous. And then they'll cheat on you with us in a couple, 6 months on the refi. And then they'll come back to you later down the line when they're ready to list. But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm seeing it, is that you're protecting yourself against future loss, because there is no downside in the respects of if the rates go lower, you can always refi.
Yep.
Literally, I spent here, fun fact that you probably didn't know, I never did a purchase the first 2 years of my loan career because I started back in 03, 04, and everybody was refining out of those 8% into 6.99% with a 2-year fix and a 3-year prepay. And
Yep.
I never did a single purchase nor talked to an agent for the first 2 years of my career until the market imploded. I never touched a purchase loan, didn't have to, because there was so much business in refis. That's the way it was. So
Sure.
it's just like that in itself has proved to me that you are not stuck at 8%. You're not stuck at a 7.5, 7, whatever you qualified for, depending on your credit and all that. But you're not stuck there, because if the market goes lower, you can easily get out of it and literally refi. I had a guy during that time period refi 6 times in like 3 years, 4 years.
Wow.
I'm not advising that. He has his own issues. I don't want to get into that. It's personal. But I'm just saying you could do it all you want, and it's nothing can stop you. So don't get hung up on the rate and miss out the opportunity to pay less on the property. Because that's what you're talking about.
And I think that's a good point. There's several moving parts when we talk about somebody buying a house. There's what they need, and maybe that changes because while they're searching for a house, they may find out their family's growing or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a moving part. The rate is a moving part. Their job, they could get a raise, they could need a new job, because it's not like people come to you and say, I want to buy a house, and 2 weeks later they're under contract. Sometimes It's that way, but sometimes this happens over several months. And when we talk about a normal market, that's how it works. Over several months, you have a relationship with this person that you're trying to help them get into a house. And so the rate is one of the moving parts. And as they own their home, the rate can continue to be a moving part because it can go up or down. And you make a good point that you put a level of protection there that it can't go higher on you.
Mm-hmm.
What the worst case scenario is when you're using the buy down, or if you buy today. Going forward, we don't know what home prices are going to look like. We don't know if there's going to be a international conflict that starts, or if there's going to be something that comes out of left field that disrupts all sorts of things that we know and do every day. It protects you, and I think that's the biggest piece. We can give people options. We know one that offers what you got today. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but it's totally up to you which way you want to play that.
Can I give you a crazy, and I'm going to even now turn the script on you, craziness.
Okay.
If I saw a house today and I said, oh, I want to wait till rates go lower. Well, let's just say housing prices go all the way to the bottom. Again, we're in an apocalypse for some reason. Who knows? You mentioned, wars and things and blah, blah, blah. So let's just say that happened hypothetically. Well, you're not going to get that house by waiting a year. That house is still not going to be on the market a year from now. So then sell your house and go buy something else at a lower price a year from that,
Yep.
Because you weren't going to get that house anyways by sitting around for a year. You're going to get some other house next year. So that scenario didn't totally work for me. I actually thought it through a little more, and that doesn't work. But nevertheless, the point is again, nobody's winning by waiting. I think the concept of worrying, again, I'm not happy with the rates. Nobody's happy about the rates. But it is what it is. And again, you can't tell me you hate the rate when you're willing to pay $25,000 more in purchase price next year and smile while you're doing it because you're like, I won the bid. It's that competitiveness, I think, is why it doesn't bother anybody. There's no competitiveness to getting the 8%, 7.5% rate. But when you outbid somebody else, it's like, you gambled and you won, but you spend $25,000 more than you had to.
Yep. And so maybe that worked out for you. Maybe it didn't. But the analogy that somebody explained to me is it's kind of like watching somebody trying to time the stock market. That usually doesn't work out for them. They would have been better off just going forward and investing at the rate that made sense for them instead of trying to sink all their money at one time on the right stock that's going to take them to the moon. And it just doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, luck is not on most people's sides in that way.
No, and also the markets aren't purposely rational and perfect in that respect so that you can make super educated decisions, because there's sometimes things that happen that we don't even know are going to happen until they, the next week things turn around and happen. So there's no way to time anything. It does not exist. All we can do is the best we can do. Period.
That's right. Today, we understand today. We know what happened in the past and we can't change it, and we can't do anything but accept the future as it comes, right?
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've had enough therapy this week. Before one of us breaks into tears, we'll wrap this up. But we promise. Oh God, damn it! I should. All right, but we'll try to make these more frequent and kind of keep sharing your thoughts. You can feel free to either email me or Mike if you want to share your thoughts. If anything you want us to specifically address or talk about. My email is Matt Haberlie, Matt MattHaberlie at successmortgage.com.
And I'm Mike Crumrine at premiermove.com. That's MikeCrumrine at premiermove.com.
Oh, until we talk to you guys again, have a great week.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye.